Hello knitters, Barbara Benson here. I'm an independent knitwear designer who also likes to make videos here on my YouTube channel, Watch Barbara Knit. Make sure to check in the description below where you will find links to all my social media, including how to join the Watch Barbara Knit Facebook group, where to get my patterns online so you can knit them for yourself, and how to support me on Patreon. And today the description will be full of all of the links to the patterns that I talk about because we have a Fave 5 today. What Fave 5 is I pick a theme. Sometimes I start browsing first and the theme comes to me. Sometimes I start out with a theme and then I browse through Ravelry and pick out the patterns that best fit my theme, that are speaking to me like I would love to cast this on right now. I'm not saying that these are the absolute best in this category of all the patterns in the world. I'm not even saying that I wouldn't next month pick out different patterns, but right now these are the ones that are speaking to me, and I hope that they speak to you too. I have all the information on my secondary screen over here, so you'll see me looking over here. That's why I look to the side. Today's theme is simple shawls. These are 5 very, very simple shawls that you can knit. They are ones that are going to be comfort knitting, that are going to be appropriate for beginning knitters or someone who just wants a carry-along project, something that really is not going to take a lot of brain power to knit, because right now I think a lot of us don't have extra brain power to spare to focus on things, and you just want to knit. I just want to knit, and I just want to make something pretty. And this is also something that might be a good patterns to use up that one special skein of yarn that you're not really sure what to do with, that hasn't really gotten along, because they're all very simple and will let this yarn shine. So let's get started. First off, I have the 1-row kerchief from Gritty Knits. Her name is Natasha Sills. And I want to start off with the easiest one possible. This pattern is 1 row. And also what I wanted to do is give y'all multiple different shapes. I didn't want to pick the same shape. I wanted so, you can decide which one looks for you. The shape of it is what really grabbed me. It is worked from the bottom up. And it's like a big V, almost like a Corvette. No, not Corvette. I'm trying to think. It's just this big V. I know that there's a car that has this symbol, and I can't remember what it is. My son's always talking about cars. But it starts from the bottom and grows up, but then the neckline also goes up in a V. So this is going to be a shawl that's very easy to wear because it's going to have a lot coming around and going over your shoulders. It'll be one that you might, even if you make it long enough, be able to pull those extra strips and tie them around your back like people like to do. And it says it's 1 row. It would be fun to see what it is. She said she used 1 ball of Gritty Knits Time Bomb gradient yarn, and that's something you're going to see in a lot of these shawls I picked out. Maybe gradients were speaking to me, but oftentimes gradients are the kind of yarn that you really don't have to do anything fancy with them. You can just let the color change be really the focal point of the shawl. And so she said it came out, she used a size 6 needle, and it ended up about 72 inches wide and 12 inches deep on that, from the inverted point of the neckline to the bottom point of the shawl. And she said she has all kinds of information in the pattern on how to do it in lace, fingering sport, and worsted weight. So this is a very flexible pattern that if you change the needle size and the yarn to get the drape you want, you can knit it almost any yarn. So, and it says any gauge, it's designed for any gauge. It can also be considered a scarf. So this is the 1-row kerchief by Natasha Sills. And honestly, I don't know that it gets much more simple than this shawl. So if you just want to knit a shawl, if you are doing the prayer shawl kind of thing, if you just have a special skein of yarn, check this one out. Now, The next one, this is from Mindy Wilkes, who designs absolutely beautiful shawls, some more complex than others. And this is on the not so complex side. It's called the Pomeroy shawl. And it is a different shape. As I said, wanted different shapes. It is one that's like an asymmetrically shaped shawl, which means it's going to start with a small number of stitches cast on and then just grow and grow and grow into a triangle that's slightly asymmetrical. And this one's in garter. You just knitting. There'll be a little bit of increasing to get you some shape, and you just knit, knit, knit till your heart's content. The only thing fancy about this one is it has this beautiful picot bind off. And let me see how she described it. I'm calling it a picot. Did she call it a picot? She called it a crochet chain bind off. So, oh, you're going to need a crochet hook, but I'm sure she explains it well. Mindy is awesome about these kinds of things. And honestly, if you're going to do anything that resembles a picot, a crochet hook is the way to go. So it's going to be just hours of, well, hours depending on how much yardage you have, hours of comforting knitting. And then at the end, you're going to learn something new and do this fun bind off and have this pretty little detail on the end. She used the gradient. She used a mini skein pack. And so if you have a mini skein pack that goes through a gradient, you could use it. You could use leftovers on a lot of these shawls. As long as you want to make sure that you're using the same weight and close to the same fiber content, you should be able to work through, like if you had a lot of leftover fingering weight scraps, this might be a great place to use them. She used a size 6 needle and a E for the crochet hook. And the yarn is Wonderland Yarns Frabjous, Frabjous, Fibers Cheshire Cat. And again, it's designed for fingering, but I'm pretty sure that you could modify this one to use whatever weight yarn that you wanted to use. You could definitely go up to like a DK. You're just going to have to adjust your needle and hook size appropriately. Let me see. The pattern calls for 500 to 550 yards of fingering weight, but she says it's easy to adjust for the yardage. Skills. She has a nice list of skills. You have to be able to knit two together, yarn over, and then you're going to do the crochet chain. So all special stitches are explained in the pattern. So if you need something to carry along and the asymmetrical shape is more to your tasting, check out the Pomeroy shawl from Mindy Wilkes. And you will notice these are getting slightly more complex. None of them are complex, but they're getting slightly more challenging as we're going along. This one is the On-Off Shawl by Larissa Brown. And it is a 4 triangle shawl. It's going to be top down. And I just did a video we had from Jen Lucas, the 3-panel, or the 3 wedge shawl. I will link to that in the description below if you need more information on that. This is the same style of shawl, but it has 4 wedges that go around the neck. So it is gorgeous. I absolutely love it. This is going to be another one that is very, very easy to wear because those wings come around. It's just going to sit on your shoulders and it's going to be crazy easy to knit. She calls for, and she calls it a square shawl because technically if you put those 4 triangles together, bink, 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 you get a square, but since it's not attached and it has an open neck, it's going to hang open. So technically it's a square, but it's not going to look like a square when you wear it. Don't worry about that. And it said any DK or worsted weight yarn and knit to any desired size. So again, I tried really hard to make sure all of these patterns are super flexible and that it's going to work with whatever it is you want to work with it. This one, I just think it's beautifully simple. I think just by looking at the pictures that what you're doing is you've got the 4 wedges and it goes stockinette, garter, stockinette, garter. So it's going to have a little bit of interest there. You can have a little fun. I'm sure you could change it up a bit. You could probably do the whole thing in garter, or you could maybe switch them out. It's comfort knitting and you do what you want to do. She used for two skeins of the yarn. she used. So we're looking at, she has 350 to 600 yards. That's a rather wide thing. Again, this is one, you stop when you run out of yarn. So you can make it as big or as small as you would like. The 2 skeins that she used of Tosh DK, which is going to be 225 times, so that's 450 yards, said that was a shawl with a 15-inch center spine down the back. So if you want it longer, if you want it to fall longer than 15 inches, you're going to need more yarn. She said patterns a two-page PDF. This thing is going to just fly, and it's just pretty. Make sure you click on the link and go through and look at more pictures of all of these shawls, because they're so pretty and simple and elegant, and something that I really could see knitting right now with my available brain power. So we started with that deep flying V shape. We had asymmetrical triangle. Then we went to that square one. And this next one, I adore big rectangular shawls. I think they're incredibly flexible to wear. You can kind of fold them up and wear them like a scarf. You can do as a big wrap. They envelop you. So I had to include, this is the Banner Springs by Emily Wood. And it is worked on the bias. Again, I said we're working up a little bit in complexity. You're going to have some increases and decreases in here to create that bias. Normally when they're flat along the bottom, this is a big long rectangle worked on the bias. So if you see any of my long rectangles worked on the bias, they're actually not rectangles. They're parallelograms. They're kind of, because the edges are just straight. And I don't do anything. I'm fine with them being at an angle. This one, it's a true rectangle. So what she's probably doing is starting with a few stitches, increasing out until it's the width she wants it, and then going straight. And then at the end, they'll be decreasing to bring it back to a point. So you have the true rectangle. None of it's going to be complicated. And you're going to have that huge stretch in the middle where it's just soothing knitting with very little increasing or decreasing. Now, she specifically created this beautiful textured run of colors. And she said what she's doing is marling it, which is the hot new thing right now. And what it is she's knitting with 2 strands of fingering weight, but switching them out. So you start with like 2 of the same color, and then you swap one of them for another color and swap another one for another color. And so that's changing the color as you go along. You don't have to do that, but I'm sure she gives instructions on how to do it well. And you can create this run of color, or I'm sure you can just do it with one solid color. If you do that, because she calls for a light fingering held with a light fingering. So you could probably just do this with a regular heavier fingering weight yarn. As with the other patterns, it's going to change the yardage you use. But if you want to use a slightly heavier yarn, you just got to make sure you have enough yarn, and you'll probably need to go up a needle size. Let's see what instructions call for a light fingering weight to be held double for the entire shawl. Color changes are made gradually by using strands of 2 contrasting colors for the transition section. Knitters may also choose to use a heavier fingering. See, I was right. She says approximately 750 yards required in total if you don't want the marled effect. So if you're just using the heavier weight fingering, you just need 750 yards. If you're doing the marling effect, you need 1,500 yards because it's doubled. That makes sense. It comes out 61 inches long and 12 inches wide. 12 inches doesn't sound like a lot, but if you think about 12 inches down your back, it's wide. So that will be awesome. It's absolutely beautiful. And again, it's got a little bit of back and forth. It looks like it's stockinette interchanged with garter. So you're just going to get this tick show. So you're talking about knits and pearls. And that is what I was looking for because I wanted to keep these simple. So this last one is a top-down triangle. Doesn't get more classic and traditional than a top-down triangle. The reason why I've had this one last is it actually is the most complex because it has a couple of tiny little things that you're going to have to do. It starts with a garter tab cast on. So again, this is what you're going to do right off the bat. When you can be alone, have a little brain power, get it going. And so you have to be able to do that garter tab. And then the rest of it is just knitting and purling. Little make one left, make one right. You're doing increases as if you don't mind the holes. You can always substitute yarn overs for make one left and make one right. That's going to give you holes down the spine. I'm fairly confident. And this, I just really liked this one. I like the subtle detail of the arrows going down. I haven't said the name of it. It's called Arrowood. Arrowwood by Sarah Jordan. And obviously it's because those arrows going down the back. So you're working in stockinette and garter. You're doing knits and you're doing purls, and you get that nice detail down the back, and it's just enough to keep it interesting, and it'll just show off your beautiful yarn and give you time to knit peacefully. She used light fingering. She did hers in Malabrigo sock, which is an amazing yarn, and used a size 6 needle. She says it calls for 440 yards. It's going to be approximately 50 inches across the neckline and 23 inches deep. So that's how far down your back it's going to call. And honestly, again, she says instructions are included in the pattern for how to adjust the size of your shawl if you have more or less yarn. So there you go. And I'm pretty sure this is another one. Adjust your yarn yardage, adjust your needle size. You should be able to do it in a heavier or lighter weight yarn if you like. It's just, I just think it's beautiful. Again, you need to go and look at the pictures on the pattern page, because there's another one that's in a gradient and you see the colors as they move. These are all great shawls for gradient or using up scraps, putting stripes in it, all that kind of fun stuff. So these were my 5 simple shawls that you can knit right now and just enjoy your knitting. Now, with these videos, I usually at the end share a bonus pattern if I have something that fits this category. And what I'll do is refer you again to the description below, where you will find the links. And what I have that fits this is my tiny shawls. I have a series of patterns here on YouTube that are all free on YouTube. You can get a little cheat sheet on Ravelry for a couple bucks if you need a printed out thing, but they are step-by-step knitting instructions. Actually, I'm gonna go make sure I name them all. They're step-by-step knitting instructions. You see me work them in the video, and the written instructions, just if you just want to copy and paste it into a document, are in the description below each video. And there is one for a crescent shape shawl. There's one for a 2-row lace crescent shape shawl, a curved asymmetrically shaped shawl, a heart shaped shawl, which is going to be similar to the first one, where it's a little more angled with longer arms, but kind of a triangle, and then a side to side triangular shaped shawl. So all of those are going to be linked below, and those are my patterns that I have that make little tiny shawl. I did little tiny shawls, but you can use any yarn with the appropriate needle, and however much yarn you have, that's how big your shawl's gonna be. So I hope you have enjoyed this video and it has inspired you if you were looking for a simple shawl to knit. If you like it, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, click that like button. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to my channel by clicking subscribe, and if you click the little bell, you will get notifications whenever I upload a new video. Thank you so much.